Welcome, Nothing But G's. Today we're going to discuss our most common modifications that we do in-house, what's good and what's overrated. Follow along. All right, guys, welcome back. Joe with Nothing But G's. We're going to be talking about modifications on your G-Wagons. We're going to focus on the 2002 through 2018 MBUSA G-Wagons. These are the most common ones we work on all day long. We'll have a separate video for the later models and the earlier models. But some things we're going to talk about today are overrated modifications versus mods that really matter. And yes, we're going to dive into that one too because everyone asks about it. So I've broken this down into a couple different categories. I'd like to start with wheels and tires. That's the number one thing we do here is wheels and tires. Every truck comes in with flat tires, bald tires, the wrong tires, and I hate to break it, folks, the shoes make the girl, right? So here's an important question to ask yourself. Wheels and tires. There's nothing wrong with the factory wheels. Mercedes does a great job with factory wheels on these trucks. We get the question of, can I put 33-inch tires or can I do a tire upgrade? Do I have to change my wheels? The answer is no. You can keep your factory wheels all day long and just put different tires on there. You can fit 35s, you can fit 33s, you can fit factory tires on there all day long. If you like your factory wheels, keep them. You can upgrade your tires. The only real reason to change your factory wheels is if you want an aesthetic upgrade, or you're going to beadlocks, or it just doesn't fit the overall motif of the truck. So if you're going to black everything out, but you got silver wheels, there's your answer. You can either have them blacked out or get new wheels. So with that being said, there's a couple small manufacturers that make good wheels for G-Wagons. 463 Industries, Raceline. There's a couple much more expensive ones we can go down the list, but those are a couple right off the top of my head that we normally deal with on a daily basis. Also, if you go to beadlocks, those are super expensive, super heavy, but may not be worth the squeeze at the end of the day. Again, overrated versus mods that matter. If you're not going to go off-roading your truck every day, beadlocks are 100% overrated. If you are going to off-road your truck and go to Moab and be airing down all the time, consider it. It's a valuable option because no one likes to have to reseat a bead on the side of the road. For 95% of all the trails in the US, you don't need beadlocks. So there, answer the question. You don't need it. Factory wheels are just fine if you like the way they look. So next on the list, mods that are overrated versus mods that matter. Lights. We're not getting any younger, guys. Factory Mercedes headlights on the later Model Gs with HIDs work really well. I do not advise changing those. They're a big pain in the ass to do it, and just don't do it. Earlier trucks where they had the incandescent bulbs, it's the equivalent of someone holding the lighter inside of there, throw those in the garbage. They're trash. We always recommend upgrading those. The most aesthetically pleasing version is to convert over to the projector style headlights that started, I believe, in 2012, somewhere in that ballpark. 2011, actually, is when the projector style came into be, and they were HIDs. Those are really bright. We actually put that in there, and we put an LED bulb in there. It's a little bit brighter than factory. We can aim them, and everything looks super sharp. There's some other options that work as well. For lack of better words, it is a 7-inch round, and we'll take a universal one in there. And there's some major manufacturers that do offer good lights, meaning Baja Designs, Rigid, Putco, just to name a few. What you want to stay away from are those cheap-looking lights that got little fish eyes and bug eyes and weird halos and colors and rings and all this superfluous crap. Don't go down that road, guys. Those are overrated. They don't matter. And the worst part about that is they don't last, they're not reliable, and they just don't work. So there's my thoughts on that. We're staying on the topic of lights around the rest of the truck. We do offer an upgrade for the reverse light and the rear fog light. And this was actually derived out of a personal experience where I was backing a truck up and ran into a tree stump and shattered the factory plastic housings. They weren't that bright to begin with. Anyway, we actually incorporate an aluminum housing with the Baja Designs LP2 in there, and it is infinitely brighter than the factory setup, and it's pretty damn robust. You can hit it with a hammer and it's not going to break. So that's why we offer it. Function over form, mainly. So, plus it actually looks really tough and good. So that's my thoughts on lighting. Protection. This is an interesting topic. If you have a factory truck and you're going to use it for work, the Mercedes G-Wagon does come with some factory built-in protection features. You may notice on the front, it's got a small skid plate, which is designed to keep you free from small rocks, animals, trash, road debris, Nothing major, but it keeps the stuff off the engine bay and off the bottom of the truck. Does a pretty decent job. Also, you've got these running boards. They look interesting, don't they? They've been around since Moses was in flip-flops, but, they get the job done if you just need a step board that, works. Now, granted, they do pack up with mud, snow, and ice, and they're pretty slippery in the wintertime, so watch out. And on the back of the truck, on the later models, you've got a fuel tank skid plate it's good, it's okay, but it's not awesome because it hangs down kind of low. So this is where I have my own opinion on this. If you're going to use the truck on a daily basis and you're going to go off-road, let's say you're a foreman on a job site. You need something that can go across multiple job sites, or you live up in the woods and you're going to use it to go, gather timber or rocks or whatever the hell you're going to do with the truck, and you're actually going to use the thing, consider upgrading the protection on the truck. And what this means is front skid plate, quarter stick aluminum or something thicker that's going to deflect from rocks and debris. Basically, you can hang the truck up on the front and it's not going to poke through. We do offer a couple different options. It's just based on bumper variances. Our rock sliders. This is a big one because the factory running boards, the moment they touch anything bigger than a small piece of brush, they crinkle up and they're garbage and you can't open the doors. And it just causes a ripple effect of damage down the rest of the body, or they get ripped off altogether. So it happens. Anyway, our rock sliders, we make sure that when they do take a hit, you can completely support the entire weight of the truck on them. That's really important to us. Whether you go with our brand or somebody else, the key thing is make sure it works for you, but they have to be there as a function aspect and have the ability, not only a good place to put your feet, but have the ability to protect the truck as well. Skid plates underneath the truck. This is one that not everybody sees, but if you know it's there, it's going to save your ass in the long run. If you're going somewhere and you risk of bottoming out, it's got a lot of expensive stuff underneath the truck. There's a basic skid plate that we offer that protects the transmission and transfer case because they are flush with the bottom of the truck. And it's a quarters thick piece of aluminum that is offset. And for lack of better words, you can almost hang the truck up on it, pivot around, and push it right back off and not worry about poking a hole in your transfer case. Not super important unless you're going to go off-roading, Moab or some of the big places with rocks. You want to protect the underside. So things to keep in mind. And on the backside, there's a couple different options that we want to consider. It just is based on how you have your back bumper set up. If you have a factory bumper or you have an AFN or one of Jack's bumpers. So there's a couple different options there, and we can discuss that later. Now, along the lines of protection, we're talking about exterior aesthetics as well. Overrated mods. So let's get into that for a second. So overrated stuff. And there's a few people that are going to hate me for this because that fits their style. But I'm going to go ahead and say it. All the plastic facelift stuff. So if you've got a 463 G-Wagon from 2002 to 2018 and you want to have it look like a newer 19 through current model year G-Wagon, you can go to Alibaba Express and order one of the Chinesium body kits that's made out of paper mache and garbage, and you can have it put on your truck. Just know up front that the cost to do so is going to cost as much as a body kit or more than, because we've got to shave, modify, cut, weld, remold it, reshave it, repaint it, just to make everything fit kind of correctly. And then it's probably going to crack on you going down the road because it's made out of inferior materials. We've run this before. It's pretty miserable. Don't do it. The second part of that equation is you'll never get your money out of it. Whenever we get into these trucks, it's important to always consider an exit strategy. In other words, one of the reasons we love these, especially from a business perspective too, if you're a business owner and getting one, you got a tax write-off, but you can always get out of it because it doesn't depreciate all that much. It's already taken the big hit and you can live with it for many, many years. If you spend all that money for a body kit on your G-Wagon to upgrade it to the newer body style, you're not going to recoup that cost. Save that money, just go buy a new one. That's my advice. So anything from China, when it comes to bumpers, body parts, any of that kind of stuff, it's crappy made. It doesn't fit well. It just doesn't quite look right. If it doesn't look like it should be there, don't put it on. Period. End of story. Two other items I want to touch on before we get to the big one is command upgrade, interior upgrades. There's two different options to consider when the 2002 through 2018 trucks. 2002 through 2012 had the in-dash unit, which was, for lack of better words, it was ahead of its time when it came out, but it quickly got bypassed. One could pull it out and put in a modern unit from Alpine, Kenwood, Pioneer, etc., all the name brands we talk about, but they don't make anything as plug and play, meaning you're going to have adapters, you're going to have modules, you're going to have fiber optic to digital converters. It can be done to make everything work correct. And when it is put together correctly, it will work nicely, but it is very, very expensive and it's time consuming to do so. Other companies, I'm going to say from the Asian side of the pond, have figured out how to replicate that system architecturally, but electronically integrate all the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto stuff that we need. It's relatively inexpensive. It's largely plug and play, and it just works really well. We've played around with both variants, but I recommend just going with the Chinese, Japanese variants because they're plug and play. It's easy. It's not worth the brain damage. Move on. So enough said. The other model, 13 through 18, it has the floating screen command upgrade. This is what it looks like. It is pretty simple. We do get asked the question, which command upgrade do you get? Well, to break it down, there's only two options that you need to consider. There's the NTG 4.5, and then there's the NTG 5.0. If you've got a 13 through 15 truck, it's the NTG 4.5. So if you're at home Googling or you're on the other side of the continent and don't want to bring the truck to us, just Google command upgrade NTG 4.5 G-Wagon. That's all you need to do, and it'll pop up a variant for it. If you have a 16 through 18 model, you need to Google NTG 5.0 command upgrade. And it's going to look the same. It's just the internal circuitry is a little different. That's all it is. Now, there's two variants upon that as well. There's the Android version and there's a Linux version. And I'm going to answer those questions. What's the difference? The first thing you're going to notice is as you search for them, the Linux one is going to be half as much as the Android version. You also get half the features. The pro of going with the Linux version, it's cheaper and the boot up time is a lot faster. It's on point with the factory command system, meaning you turn the key on, by the time it starts and you get the truck and gear, everything's booted up, you're ready to go, you got your reverse camera up. It's easy plug and play. And installation on the Linux version is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I think there's one or two settings we have to change there to make everything work correctly with the reverse camera, and it's flawless. The Android version is twice as expensive. It is a lot more complicated to install, and you have a lot of settings that we need to set properly in order for it to integrate with the truck when we're all said and done. However, what the Android system offers over Linux is the ability to load your own apps onto the system without the use of your phone. So if you're in a Wi-Fi area or have it hooked up to the internet, you can load Onyx or the Trails app or any of your 14, any off-road map you want to onto the system, or any app that you want on the system. You can have your Starlink connect up to it if you want, and have the ability to command and control everything without having your phone tethered to it. Kind of a cool feature. It's not for everybody, but it's for somebody. Just know there's additional cost and complexity with it. So just know that going into it before you make the purchase. The other thing I want to talk about that is important to a certain extent is window tint. And you've heard me talk about this in some of our other videos. Being as we're in Colorado, we don't have as much atmosphere and ozone to protect us from the sun. So window tint is very important. Otherwise, we fry. So with that, every single G-Wagon that comes out of here, I always have that discussion. Would you like us to take care of the window tint on your windows? My default, just so you know, if you say yes, I'm going to put it to legal limits based on your area. So if you live in New York, they have a certain limit versus if you live in Colorado, they have a different limit. Or if you live in Texas, they have a different limit. So we always ask those questions. But window tint for us means protecting you and the truck from UV rays. That includes windscreen. Even on the front windscreen, we put a clear tint that blocks UV rays from hitting you and cooking the dash. It's pretty important stuff. It's one of those luxuries that you don't think about, but when you get in a truck that doesn't have it, you notice it right away. It's immediate heat coming at you. So those are the most common ones. But the biggest one I want to talk about is suspension. And this is very near and dear to my heart because as we get into these trucks secondhand, or as they have some miles on them, almost every single one of them has worn out and clapped out suspension that makes the handling characteristics and the driving dynamics pretty poor. And they shouldn't be that way. These are hand-built trucks. They're really tight, and they deserve to be going down the road correctly. There's a couple of minor things we can do to really increase that, but we've put together basic packages that maximizes the truck for your use case. And we've categorized that into three different areas. The first one's going to be your daily driver, meaning that you're going to be dropping the kids off at school, you're going to be going to work, you're going to be doing some commuting, you're going to be going on weekend trips, basically on road 99% of the time. We call this the stock plus variant. It works very, very well. It allows for the truck to sit a little higher. It's got slightly stiffer springs in there, better dampers. But the key thing is it's going to keep the truck from bottoming out all the time on the bump stops. It's not that the springs are too stiff on the G-Wagon, it's that they're too soft. That's the number one flaw on just about every single G-Wagon. They are too soft. You're going down the road at 70 miles an hour and you hit a bump, it slams on the bump stops and feels harsh. We want to eliminate that. Secondarily, we want to be able to change lanes and handle without having this tippy-toppy sway that is associated with big SUVs. So we stopped that. We fixed that. So we call that our Stock Plus upgrade. It's a very manageable upgrade. We always include brake lines and wheel adapters and steering damper upgrades as a whole package because we don't want to give the option of having to say, do I need this or do I need this? No, we want to handle everything. So, the Stock Plus upgrade is one and done. You just pick your tires out. If you want to upsize it one size, it's like a Stock Plus, and it works really well. The second one that we see all the time is called the GOAT Mods. It's a 2-inch lift, 33s. It's a little bit more money, but it proportionally puts a truck almost perfect. The wheels, tires, if you use the rule of thirds on it, it dials it. It's perfect. You can go 90 miles an hour down the road if you have to, or illegal speeds. And you can go off-road with it. It works really well. Arguably one of my favorite mods. It's best bang for the buck. It's just an all-around good one. You can also pick your wheels, tires, everything to go with it. Anyway, digress. The other one is going to be your 4-inch lift. So we broke these up. Stock Plus, 2-inch, and 4. The 4-inch is almost twice as much money as the 2-inch lift, but there's twice as many parts involved with it and twice as much labor involved with it. But it allows you to run 35, 36 or somewhere in that ballpark, and you can severely off-road the truck. It's also a great option if you do live off the grid or up in the mountains or up in the hills, and you're going to use this thing every freaking day. Or if you're a severe overlander and you're going to be camping out of your truck for 20, 30 days at a time, consider it. It's a stout package. You can ride 35s all day long, and it allows you to roll over a lot of terrain. And the ground clearance on something like that rivals that of fully built JKs, just the way the trucks are constructed. It's amazing. And they go down the road full speed without any compromises. That's the big thing. Things that I would stress that you don't do for a G-Wagon would be to lower it, to do lowering springs. The reason is these trucks are designed with a certain amount of travel. It's called 8 inches, right? Stock, as they wear out, you're riding down the bottom 2 inches. So as you go over bumps, it's going to hit those bump stops and it's going to feel really harsh. If you lower it, you're going to be just an inch off those bump stops. So it's going to feel like you're hitting the bump stops all the time. And when that happens, your spring rate goes to infinity and you lose control of the truck. You no longer have the ability to absorb bumps and stay with the road. So it takes a bad handling truck, it makes it worse. Don't do it. Please. I know there's somebody out there that just has to do it, but please don't. So that's the most overrated part of the suspension aspect. Now, other things that are just overrated. I'm going to say this knowing that we have done these here, knowing that it doesn't really affect anything in a positive way except for personal want and desire. And that's going to be exhaust upgrades. There is no real upgrade for exhaust other than changing it. So on your G550s and 63s, we have an option where we can change the mufflers out to give it something with a more aggressive tone or have it be louder. There's not a lot of options on the market, but the stuff that is out there is pretty loud. I want everyone to know going into that, it's not going to change the actual power output of the truck. Changing the mufflers does not give you increased horsepower. It just gives you increased noise, tone, and aggression. And for some of us where this is fulfilling that 12-year-old dream of us, great, do it. I'm here for it. We're happy to serve you and do that modification all day long. I love that for you. However, I want to just clear the air that it doesn't bring any additional power. So anyway, there may have been a misconception around it. So just clear the air there. The other one is we do an exhaust mod whenever we do our rock sliders, which we keep the factory mufflers, but we trim the tips up because they're hanging down and they get caught on stuff. That one is not overrated. That one is needed. And that's a purely functional modification where we actually keep the mufflers. We just trim up the down hanging tips so they don't get caught. It's a simple function now. So that is what I have to say about the exhaust. The last part of the equation is, and I don't get asked this question very much, but I have pretty much the same answer, is people ask about tuning and engine modifications on these trucks. I generally steer people away from it. Here's my logic and reasoning for it, is no matter what truck you get, it's never a slouch. Even the early G500s have 300 horsepower, 330 foot-pounds of torque. They move out. They go down the road just fine. And they only got more powerful as time got on. The AMG models are nuts. For lack of better words, Mercedes put millions of dollars of R&D into these engines, transmissions, and drivetrains. If you want a more powerful truck, buy the AMG version. It's not going to serve you any good step of the way to try to tune or modify a naturally aspirated vehicle. You're just not going to get there. They've designed these motors with a good bit of headroom, meaning they're tuned to roughly 80% of their capacity, their duty cycle. And they do that so that you can run them at 100% duty cycle in all extremes, with all temperatures and all conditions, without blowing them up. It's about longevity. It's about reliability. And that's why we love this platform. Is it's a global platform. You can run it across multiple continents with your foot in it, running off 78 octane Mexican gas, and still get home. That's what's important. No one wants to deal with a truck that's tuned to the nth degree that has to run off of ethanol, and it's just a pain in the ass to drive. We don't got time for that. So now you have my stance on engine tuning and exhaust and body kits and wheels and tires and command upgrades and lighting and tint. Thanks for watching. If there's more content like this that you want to see, or give me an interesting topic, I'm more than happy to discuss it with you. Nothing but G's. Thanks for watching.